Welcome back to Raw AI Solutions, the podcast where we discuss how business leaders are navigating the fast-moving world of AI and digital transformation. I'm your host, Denise Powell.
And I am your co-host, Robert Thomas.
And today we are joined by JP Revel, the founder and owner of Lielander and Major Digital Marketing. So JP, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much. It's wonderful to be here.
Fantastic. JP, would you like to kick us off and tell us a little bit about yourself and your companies?
Absolutely. Yeah. So I'm currently living in St. Louis, grew up in Indianapolis, started my career in Chicago, lived in San Francisco for 11 years, and now I'm in St. Louis going on 19 years. And started in IT and then freelance web and software development, and then started Lielander about 15 years ago, and then started Major just 3 years ago.
The real question is, who's your football team?
Ooh.
You've been a lot of different places, so I don't want to say who I think it is, but yeah, who's your team if you have one?
Well, maybe surprising, but and I'm not a huge sports fan, but I would say that I've been rooting for the Lions because my family's from Michigan. So, and the Lions have been on a good path the last few years.
Yeah, it's good to be a Lions fan now. Yeah, that's good. I'll let that one. I'm a Cowboys fan, so if you would have said anything like Eagles or Steelers, I probably would have had to step away for a second. But no, I like Lions. My best friend, his dad actually played for the Lions, so I root for them as well. So we have something mutually in common, I guess.
That's super cool.
Oh, that's brilliant. So JP, tell us a little bit, what is Lielander, and tell us about Major.
Absolutely. Be delighted to do that. So Lielander has about 15 years old. We do custom web and software development. We started doing it through a network of independent experts. So before we started hiring staff, we started teaming up with other freelancers, and we kept that as our business model throughout the 15 years. So we've grown that and built great relationships with great expert talent across the US. And we've just dipped our toe into a little bit of development happening in the Philippines. And our target market for the longest time was marketing agencies. And then we pivoted to mid-market. And then we got bought by a marketing agency. So I guess it was good to have both. So we've got a team of 5 at Lielander as staff, and then our independent expert network is about 30. And we're modernizing legacy systems. We're building mobile apps and web applications and websites and API integrations. And then that's Lielander. And then Major is it's a mission-driven organization to give back to the Philippines. So we give a percent of profit to build houses and teach financial literacy and to equip for natural disasters, which they have more of than any other country. So we have a staff of 11 there, and we're doing the boring, mundane marketing tasks that Americans don't want to do.
As I believe Lielander has now been acquired. And so you're going through that procedure right now. So I'm assuming all your major focuses are going to be around Major, which is your mission-driven company. I love that.
Actually, I've decided to stay on with Lielander, so I'm still leading it. And the buyer has decided to keep our brand. So from the outside world, it may not even feel any different. They wanted our staff, and they wanted our network of independent experts. So we're just kind of moving closer to them, and we'll be probably starting to integrate some of their team into ours over time. And so I'll be spending probably 2/3 of my day on Lielander and 1/3 on Major.
I have a quick question. Something that you shared really sparked something in me, I think, because you don't hear a lot of people say they have mission-driven companies. Most of it is for profit. So I'm curious, share with the audience like how you came to that realization. Was it through an experience of something in the Philippines or through someone you worked with? Like, how did that actually come alive? I'm just curious.
Yes. So I actually learned about working with the Philippines in 2020, and someone was giving me a pitch on a virtual assistant. And instead of hiring that company, I just went to go learn about the Philippines, and my heart got tied to the country. And through that process of hiring a VA, and then I moved some back office activities of Lielander to the Philippines. But it wasn't until I went to go visit them in 2022 that things really changed. So I had a premonition about this. I had a feeling that this might, I was kind of doing like a fact finding mission when I went. But so like some of the easy parts about it were stable employment, because employment's much different there. And then the commutes, like a lot of people live in Manila and they have these long 2 to 3 hour commutes. So it's like, hey, we do work from home so they don't have to commute. Can we give them a stable job? Because there's talent there. And the talent was better suited for marketing than it was for custom software development. So that's why I decided to create a new brand and start a new business doing that. But when I was there, probably one of the most important things was we took the team around, and we were in a bus or in a van, and the van driver was talking to one of the team members and told them that their house was hit by a typhoon, and they were using a cell phone charger to light a light bulb in the house at night because they'd lost electricity. And this sounds very American, but I don't want to be in the Philippines without air conditioning, let alone electricity. So we contacted him when I got home, and I asked him about his electricity, and he sent me some pictures, and I cried when I saw him because his home was not really a home. It was just found objects tied together. And so we sent him a gift of $1,000 saying, I don't know what you need more than you do. And what he did astonished me, because he built a house for $1,000 in 2 weeks. He built a house. It's not a palace. It's not a great house, but it's a concrete slab floor and cinder block walls and bamboo and tin corrugated roof. And he was so thrilled. I found out he had 5 people living in that, 5 children living in the house with him. So we could improve the life of 7 people for $1,000 in 2 weeks. And I was just like, oh man, we got to do that again. Like there's no way I'm not doing that again. And so when we started Major, we're like, okay, we're going to give 10% of profit to these causes, and natural disasters is one of them. And then there is a cycle of poverty in the way that the culture is set up, where the children pay for the parents to retire. And so I want to try to see if, for some people, if I can help them build a savings so that they can not have to have their children, support them. And so those were some of the big things I saw. I felt like it was a God moment. It was a Holy Spirit kind of thing. It's like, what is this happening to me? How can I have an impact there? And that was so we've now built 4 houses. We'll be building our 5th or 6th starting January. So
That's amazing. Yeah, very, very touching. I didn't know what to expect, but that's a lot to take in. I think we don't, especially in Western culture, we don't really realize how much a dollar stretches in other areas and like how ungrateful we really are. And so, yeah, thank you for sharing that. And it's amazing that you've turned. I mean, you're obviously leveraging capitalism for something that's beneficial and great. But yeah, that story is just it's amazing that you've uh, turned that into something that can be shined a light upon, and you can help others. So that's amazing.
Thank you. Thanks.
I don't even know how to go from there.
I know.
Yeah.
I feel like I derailed the whole. We
Yeah.
derailed the whole
No,
podcast.
I read a book called Halftime that was about going from success to significance. And even though we always want our businesses to grow, we always want to be bigger and be more, I had to look back and say, like, I've already achieved a level of success that, not everybody gets. And, what kind of legacy do I want to leave when I am done on this world? And that's kind of one of the things that sparked my desire to like do something for others that it felt like I could have an outsized impact. So it couldn't have happened if I hadn't had Lielander. Lielander was definitely important for the beginning of Major, and I had already made all the mistakes in Lielander. Not all, but I made a lot. And so I could start a new company without having to relive all those mistakes.
If you had to go back, obviously success, was important for Leelander, and maybe it wasn't a mission driven company as far as like as intentional as this one is. If you had to go back to start Leelander, would you, and I'm not sure if you had other companies, but would you have all of them be mission driven? Would you start all of them in that way? Because I usually hear that most successful people, they have success, they make whatever their version of money is, they make a good amount of it, they're successful, and then they have the time to think and say, yeah, I would have, now that I can do things different, I'm going to build it that way. But I think we may have some younger listeners, and by younger listeners, I'm talking about myself. But we may have younger listeners who entrepreneurs or whatever who like maybe this is their first business and they want to start being intentional first as well as being successful. Like, would you, now knowing what you know, would you go back and do anything different from Leland? I wouldn't say you regret anything, but would you change anything differently? What advice, I guess, would you share to other people who may be in that journey of being mission driven?
It has been absolutely yes is the answer to that question, because when you have a mission, whether you're talking to prospects or whether you are, trying to hire the right team, to know that there's something bigger than yourself that you're like a part of, things just move differently. Things just move in a really positive direction, and you attract the people who care like that, and then those people are more committed, and it's really fun to see the fruit of that. Lielander I'm very proud of it. It's a great company, and it's been successful, but the purpose is one thing that I've struggled with. Like, what is like, we've definitely helped a lot of people along the way, whether it's clients or giving opportunities to like new people out of college or, those kinds of things. And I'm very grateful when I see all the past Lielander employees succeeding in their different places. And I see it in the current team. I see people helping each other. I see people, and I would say that none of that is bad. All that's great, but it's also typical of any good company. You see that kind of thing in any good company. So if we'd had a stronger purpose from day one, I think we would have been more successful, and I think it would have been more fun.
Amazing. I'm lost for words. Probably, yeah. I think that's great feedback because it's like you don't really hear it, so it's refreshing. I think to like hear someone like yourself say that who's done business like you sold. 90% of people have never even had a successful business or even sold a business. Like mergers, acquisition, like those terms don't, like that's not just normal for most people. I think it's refreshing to hear that someone like yourself, you sold your company, but now you starting a mission driven company where you're still leveraging your skill set. And you also, what one of the biggest things I've learned, you also didn't go the nonprofit route of like, hey, I'm going to start this nonprofit and I'm going to go ask a lot of people for money and then I'm going to give away. It's like, No, like you leverage your skill set, you make money for it, you start a business, you help others, and for those that are not at your company, you have a specific purpose for where that money is going to go to kind of help and impact someone else. Yeah, it's just amazing to hear it, I think, from someone like yourself. So
Thank you, Robert. I'm really touched that you see from the beginning, you know, and entrepreneurism is a awesome place. Like if there's like one other thing outside of these worlds is like the goal of an entrepreneur is it's rare. It's rare to find someone who has that entrepreneurial spirit, has that like don't give up attitude and fighting, when you get knocked down, you get right back up. All that kind of stuff it's not for everybody, but it makes the world go round. And, entrepreneurs, I don't know what the statistic is, but I want to say like 40% of US employees work at entrepreneurial small businesses. And it crosses socioeconomic, race, gender, borders. It has an amazing effect. So, but not everybody is going to be on board with that. If you're an employee at a company, and it's really the entrepreneur's lonely job to figure that out.
How to journey being an entrepreneur. Actually, it's one thing that Robert and I are doing with our company is setting aside it's actually bizarrely enough, like a 10% blessing fund. But it's so nice to know that you've really gone out there and you've done that. A lot of companies out there would actually like to give, but I guess they just don't know where to or where to start, or even to know that all their money is actually going to go somewhere versus out of every £1 or every $1 that we donate, only 10 cents gets to the end user, especially with nonprofits. You've done it in a very sustainable way, which is fantastic.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm excited for what you guys are building as well.
So going back to your companies and that, have you seen any major shifts over the last year or so? Are markets changing?
Oh, yes. Like I'd say that the computer science software world is changing faster than any other industry with the advent of AI coding and all these platforms where you can prototype and build really like with very little or no skill you can build something. And so that is like number one on my task list at LeLander is getting our team to develop. My threshold is 50% of all code is written in AI, and that is not. It takes time to get to that point. So we're yes, we have done some AI integration. Robert, I think you're probably more skilled and have more experience in that than I do, but not just using ChatGPT, but actually using AI as a team. And how does a team go about the process from, back of the napkin idea all the way to delivered, enterprise level, solid quality software with AI. That's kind of my self-imposed marching orders.
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, that's good, and I think that's a great space to be in. I think that's MIT only 90% of AI pilots are failing. Again, trying to believe this is not a technology problem. It usually always is never the tech. It's usually the people. Either not expectations aren't managed, or the leadership doesn't do a good job of change management, or the leadership doesn't involve any of the people in these decisions. And I think that's where we have a lot of disconnect in certain areas. But yeah, I think that you spot on with that. And yeah, it's very interesting times to say, like, yeah, like, I have a 1 year old, so it'll be years before she goes to college. But is a data science or like computer science degree, like, should she still go for that? Maybe she'll be prompting, and when she's in high school, she's like taking prompting classes, and like maybe she learns the back end when she's in middle school, and like I don't know, like I feel it's just so weird to think about all the things that's changing so fast and how it impacts everything. It's like catastrophic.
I have a thought on this, and it was not my original thought. It was a speaker that I went to on the topic of AI, and he said that we're moving from like IQ, like intelligence quotient, past there's like EQ or like emotional intelligence, and his sort of rubric was adaptability quotient. Like when I think, and this is something that he said that I totally agree with. My parents had one career. I'm on my third, and our kids will maybe have 10 or 20 or 30 careers. So how do you adapt from one, because the change is going to happen so fast. How do you adapt? And how do you learn that skill of learning and unlearning to adapt? And as like that, when you're talking about change management is going to be coming at a very fast pace. Very fast.
How did you actually do it when you started to look at 50% of all AI coding needs to be 50% of coding needs to be AI? How did you even know where to start? What were the mistakes you did? What would you have done differently?
Well, I felt like I was banging the drum ever since OpenAI came out. I was like, it was one of those things where I was like, oh gosh, I see that there is some serious potential here, and we all need to get on board and start doing it, start getting comfortable with the tools. And there was a lot of resistance. There's a lot of resistance because, as I'm sure you guys know, in the early days, you would write a prompt or ask it a question and it would give you a terrible answer. And then people are like, well, this is lame. This doesn't help. This isn't going to impact my day. But looking forward to the future, and gosh, in 2 years, how much that's already changed. And I still feel like we're in early days. I think it's still going to, change way more than it has. So getting people over that hump of like, okay, maybe the answer is disappointing now, whether the answer is in code or the answer is in words or whatever, or an image, and say like, okay, work with what we can do now, but look to the future because it's going to get better. And I think the biggest sea change at LeLander came with the advent of Claude Code, because Claude Code you can write it in a terminal, which a lot of my team members are comfortable in. It is, it can have awareness of all the files in a folder, so it can traverse. You're not just asking like one sort of specific question. It can have a more nuanced understanding as you're asking it. And it still has challenges. I'm not saying it's like we're not done, but we're at a point where you can start to say like, these classes of tasks can now be mostly or completely done by AI, and that leaves my room over here. And it actually takes a very skilled person to know what code they need to write, what code they can offset to AI, how to manage the tool set, which is changing. We're in Claude Code today. What will we be in next month? I'm not sure. But my goal was to stick with one thing for 6 months. And now that's, we're getting close to that 6-month marker already. And, we need to reassess.
What is when you think about maybe the problems? Again, I know you just your first company, Lielander, you're not there. You've sold that company. But when you think about the challenges that you have to consistently overcome, either in both businesses, what does that look like? I mean, I know you talked about people, and especially around AI, it's probably some level of change management. Staying ahead of the tech as much as you can, which is everybody. I don't think if we all could do that, we'd probably all be billionaires. But it's changing every day. It's changing every second. There's something new to come out. But I'm curious, what are the other maybe adversities or challenges that you're really facing today to kind of help scale and continue to grow your organizations?
I think, where my mind goes when you ask that question is about having a vision and then communicating that vision, showing instances or examples of how some aspect may be happening. So like use cases, because they know that there's this thing out there called AI, but they don't know how it applies to them. And so to continually be like bringing that forward and giving people chances to experiment and say like, hey, here's something that I built, whether it was a graphic for Major or it was a prototype of an app that I used, vibe code or some tool out there like Lovable, and said, hey, here's something that's out there that is like, I built this. People need to see and have those aha moments of like, okay, wow, I didn't think it could do that. And then taking that and having like a disciplined approach of like, how do we move something from an idea into practice, which is about training, which is about having the team trust each other and organization, like having the organization be able to like roll out these changes, which is really challenging times, really hard.
The AI hallucinations. So you can build your code and you think, wow, I didn't know it could do it. It's fantastic. But obviously it has to be continually monitored. How do you overcome that challenge?
Carefully. So kind of like the way that I'm thinking of this is like in the dev process, I can't just let the AI build the whole thing and expect it to work. And I can't expect it to know all the nuances that were in my mind about what I thought it should do. So it's having this methodical approach of giving it some tasks, checking it, reading the code, not just letting it build. So like our current team is using a diff tool. I don't know if you know the term diff tool. So you can see the old and new code changes and actually lay your eyeballs on it and say, is this what I wanted? Before I commit it and keep going. You have to be, you can trust it to a point. What the funny thing that I've noticed is sometimes the AI does a better job than I would do at some kinds of code. And then sometimes it's so frustrating. Like there's something that you're like, just move this box over there. And it can't do it. It can't do it. You ask it like 10 times and you're like, I could have written the code myself, before I've fought against the AI.
And you end up like going
and process.
AI.
Right. It's like you can't, and it's even cool. Like in some AI, depending on which LLM, you can actually like show it a picture and be like, oh, okay, I get it. But it still doesn't code it right. There's still things that happen. So you've got to live with some of that frustration. You got to push past it, and you've got to make your own decisions too. Like someone said, like human in the loop. Like you can't not have a human in the loop.
So what would you say to other companies that saying, well, AI is going to replace 50% of all positions that are out there in the next 5 years?
I think that is partly true. I don't think it's entirely true. And I think that goes to the adaptability quotient idea, where people need to learn how to adapt. They see like some classes of their job description can be done in AI in a shorter amount of time. Okay, mourn that loss, learn the new skill, give AI that task and move on, because we're going to have to adapt. There's a lot of fear in the web and software development world that everyone's jobs are going to be eliminated. And I watched a great YouTube from Y Combinator it's called Jarvin's Paradox. And it's basically the Cliff Notes version of it is there is so much pent up demand in the software world that it's actually to our advantage that we can have 50, 60, 70% of our code written in AI, because there's so much more to do that we don't even recognize, because it was always on the shelf because it was too expensive, too time consuming. And people realize, slowly that actually those jobs are going to be just as important, but what is being done in that job is going to change.
Mhm.
You know?
Yeah.
And you got to be okay with that.
Yeah.
You know, I was telling my team, you know, our kids are going to laugh that, like, oh man, back in the old days, we used to literally write the code by hand, every line, and then have to compile it and check it. You know, that's going to be a laughable thing in 30 years.
Worried about the skill set because I think we're losing a lot of our skill set in a lot of the way that we think about logic and think about things. And it's actually, I think AI is actually making us dumber a little bit because we were so reliant on it. And I'm worried in 30 years' time, how much of the skill set that we learn today is actually going to be lost. And I think I'm really worried for society because of that.
I mean, it is a concern. I want to say that, like, at a foundational values level, that will never change. And like, I remember reading that someone said, you know, AI has knowledge, but it doesn't have wisdom. You know, so how do we continue and gain in our wisdom? And the thing that what you mentioned about how what we learn today is going to be useless tomorrow, I think it will. I think there's a good chance that it won't be used. But what did we learn? How did we gain wisdom from it? And that will continue. There's no one that has the market cornered on wisdom.
Thank goodness for that. So tell us a little bit more about. I'm going to go back to major because obviously Lielander's been sold out. But for major, where do you want to take that business in the next like 6 to 12 months?
So great question. Can I answer it with the big picture vision first and then kind of back it into the next year?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So because I've achieved a certain level of success at Lielander, I'm not dependent on major.
Mm-hmm.
But my goal is to grow the staff to 100. And so we're at 11 now. So we have we have ways to go to get to 100, because I want to have stable employment for 100 Filipinos.
Mm.
And then I want to have, that one marker would automatically mean that we're hitting a certain revenue, we're hitting a certain profit, and we're building enough houses, we're equipping enough for natural disaster, and we're making those long-term investments for changing financial literacy for families and creating a legacy. So how do we get there? You know, and here's related to what you were saying, Denise, is like the skills that my team uses today, they may use 50% of it in a year. So how do we continue to evolve and adapt as we grow? Because I started the company with the boring, mundane marketing tasks, and some of those boring, mundane marketing tasks can be done in AI. But someone still has to direct the AI. Someone still needs to tell it, you know, an entrepreneur or a marketing manager still knows what they need to have, you know, to get done. And some of these things they could end up doing themselves, but do they want to? Is that the use of their time to just manage, you know, 10 agents or however you want to like visualize what that would be? Wouldn't that be nice to just hand that off and say, okay, all my social media is posted. Here's the report. Here's all these things. Here's all these blogs. You know, have all this stuff, the output become more and more AI driven. And it's about like keeping to a vision, keeping training, keeping learning development, keeping my team adaptable. And I've seen glimmers. I've seen things. I'm not saying that I'm thoroughly happy with everything, but I'm seeing, you know, I've given them time and space to do AI experiments. And so they're sharing with the team, oh, did you know you could do this? Did you know you could make a video of a product with a prompt versus trying to like get a photographer and a videographer? Like could be, you know, an amazing change for some people. And just keeping those ideas flowing. One other point is even though AI is really good at knowledge and maybe we still need our wisdom. So how do you get people, continuing to have the currency of original thought? And that requires getting out into the world. That includes not just learning at your desk, but getting away from your desk, and that's a different type of problem.
Yeah. And what do you think your biggest challenge is to getting to where you're going to have 100 people in the Philippines working for major?
I'd say, have you heard the phrase, the cobbler's children have no shoes?
No.
I've not heard that one.
Yeah. So it's basically like when we do marketing for all these clients, it's sometimes hard to remember to do it for yourself. And that is, and the same goes for Lielander. We didn't have a website for the first 3 years. We just, we had relationships and we were building great things, but no one knew we existed. So the same problem is true at Lielander and Major, which is awareness. And does my solution fit your problem? Are you in the market for it? Is this something that you're thinking about for next year? Is it not a current need? And to sift through and find people, especially major with that mission driven, like someone who believes in our mission is going to be more, not that I want to make mistakes, but they're going to be more forgiving because they see the bigger vision.
So are you going to be focusing on doing your own marketing for yourself?
Yes. So I'll be doing marketing and sales for ourselves.
And they're not using AI
challenge. Yeah, I know. And how can we leverage AI for it?
Exactly. So, JP, before we wrap up, what's one piece of advice that you'll give to another entrepreneur out there looking to start their own business and they just don't know where to start? What's one piece of advice you'd give to them?
I have two things in mind. First is practical, and the second is more philosophical. So the practical one is, what are you doing right now that you suck at and hate to do? How fast can you get those things off your plate and get to doing the things that you love and are one of the best people in the world at doing, and get everything else eventually off your plate? And so it's just that it's a process. I've done it a few times where I just have to look at my tasks and what am I doing and am I good at it and do I hate it? Well, if I do, move it away as quickly as possible. And between AI and a global workforce, like any beginning entrepreneur can find a way to get some of that moved off their plate. The philosophical one is about a horizon line. When it's whether it's a vision or it is even a process, something, a way to do things, you can only see from the vantage point of what you know. And I took flying lessons when I was in my 20s, and the instructor said that the higher that you go, the farther you can see. And that idea of having a longer horizon line gives you opportunities to see things that you wouldn't otherwise see. So if you're, that could take many ways to say that. Meeting other entrepreneurs, meeting other people who've gone through challenges, listening to podcasts like this, you get a new perspective, and it helps your long-term vision, the farther out you can see.
Just surround yourself with those people that have really been there and done that. Yeah.
Yes, as much as possible.
Yeah, completely. Well, if listeners would like to know more about Lielander or even Major digital marketing, please see contact details below in the description. And JP, it's been absolutely incredibly insightful to have you on board. Thank you so much. Really enjoyed this podcast. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you both.
Thanks, JP.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I'm really I'm excited for what you guys are doing, and really very grateful for the time.